This episode of the Mad Rush podcast.
And I look at it this way too, that, in a world where on paper, everybody is so competitive and qualified with all of our, access to resources and education and organizations and things, it's, what are those things that are going to make you stand out and make you memorable among a group? And so much of that is the things that you love, because the things that you love are what are the easiest things to talk about and the easiest things to showcase. And so if you can really tap into that, whether it's a hobby or a value or a belief or whatever it is, it's, how is this setting me apart from a crowd?
Welcome to the Mad Rush podcast. I'm Trisha Addix, the original Sorority Rush consultant. While the stories I have to share are nothing short of astonishing, this podcast goes beyond the wild client tales and sorority life. I'll be engaging with fascinating guests from both within and outside the Greek world, uncovering the surprising connections that bind us all together. Join me for a journey that's as entertaining as it is enlightening. Welcome to Mad Rush. Y'all, I am so excited. My book, The Rush Bible, is available for pre-order from Simon & Schuster. It's coming out next May, but you can order it now, and it's going to be great for anyone who's considering going through Sorority Rush. This is the book for you. You can order it today. The link is in the show notes, and it's also on my Instagram at Rush with Confidence. And I can't wait to get this great information on how to crush Sorority Rush out to all of you. Anyway, thank you for listening, and I appreciate you. Today, it is my absolute honor to host someone I admire greatly, Mariah Grumet Humbert. I met her at the Southern Sea, which we're both members of, and she is a rock star, y'all, and I'm so excited that she's here. She's a certified etiquette trainer, author, and lifestyle connoisseur. As the founder of Old Soul Etiquette, she champions the idea that etiquette is much more than a set of rules. It is a powerful tool to help individuals build confidence, create meaningful connections, that's the buzzword, and share their gifts with the world. So thank you, Mariah, for being here. I'm so excited about this and ready to get into it.
Thank you, Trisha. I'm so excited to be here.
So can you give us a little background? After I asked Mariah to be on this podcast, she gave me some information. So I do now know that she is a sorority girl. So talk about what school you went to, sorority, what that was like for you.
So I went to the University of Delaware, where I was an Alpha Xi Delta. I'm a 2019 graduate, so not too long ago, actually. But I had an incredible experience in Greek life. It was something I knew I wanted to get involved in right away because of the community, the connections, the social life, the forever friendships that you make. Those things were so important to me. So, in my time in my sorority at college, I was very involved. I served our recruitment team for 2 years. I always say that's kind of where I found my voice there, when you have to command a room of hundreds and hundreds of,
yes,
young women at ages 18 to 21 or 22. You have to command the room. So I enjoyed that experience. And then my last year of college, I actually temporarily disassociated from my sorority to be a rush counselor for the potential new members coming in that year. So I was very involved, and I'm a big champion for Greek life.
Well, dang, you need a job? I was kidding. You did a lot. That's, and you have a great understanding of it, clearly. So explain to me what inspired you to start Old Soul Etiquette.
I think people are very quick to assume that I was raised in some kind of super formal home with lots of rules and lots of etiquette training, but I grew up in the Northeast, where we didn't really even have things like cotillion where I grew up, so I did not grow up with any type of formal etiquette training. I was raised in a home where kindness and respect and inclusivity was, at the forefront of everything that we did, but I was not raised with any type of formal etiquette. I'm a history buff, so I always loved to read history books and learn about etiquette. It was a topic that fascinated me. And so when I moved to New York City after college to start my career in the fashion industry, I took an etiquette course on a whim to try and meet some like-minded people. As a 22-year-old would, and completely fell in love with the potential of the topic and what I could potentially bring to, redefining this idea of etiquette for our world today and our new generations, connecting older generations, and what it really means to use it as a tool instead of this rigid set of rules that people are expected to follow.
Yeah, I love that. And I've said since I met you, so much of what you do mirrors what I do and what you think, and it's way more than it looks like on the surface to some people.
Yes.
I'm saying that more about me. I'm not trying to speak for you, but an etiquette coach, can I call you an etiquette coach?
Sure.
Yeah,
yes,
etiquette coach and a rush coach both are kind of on the surface like, wait, is that superficial or is that, but it's really not. And I actually just got a mom called me yesterday and she said her daughter is she's a junior in high school and her daughter is having a little trouble assimilating. And she said, we're in the Northeast, but I grew up in Georgia and I'm seeing that they're missing parts of things that were such a big part of me growing up. And so I was referred her to you. I was like, follow her.
Thank you.
So your company name is Old Soul Etiquette. So what does that mean to you? Or what does that philosophy influence your teaching methods?
Yes. So much of my, business comes from keeping certain traditional or timeless thoughts and guidelines and ways of life, but then, merging them with our new ways of life, with more inclusivity, more technology based, putting an emphasis on human connection at a time where it's so needed. And so, I came up with the name Old Soul Etiquette because I've been called an old soul since I was super young, probably as early as I can remember. I was the kid who was, trying to sit at the adults table. I wanted to do nothing. I wanted nothing to do with what the kids were doing. I wanted to be in the adult conversations. I wanted to hear what was going on. And so it's such a big part of my personality, and I think is kind of some part of my secret weapon of being able to kind of connect generations together.
I think that is your superpower for sure. And I think leaning into something that you're good at and that makes you is exactly what we're talking about. Because about anybody, to celebrate, to know what makes you unique and special, and then to lean into it is, I would imagine, or I predict, a huge reason why you're so successful, because you're not trying to be somebody you're not. You're leaning into the fact. I say that about my older son. I'm like, he came out of me 40 years old.
I totally relate to that.
Yeah. And I mean, I love it. And, he's very comfortable in his own skin too. And I love that. And that's something that I try to explain to the people with whom we work. Like, it's not about changing you. And it's about understanding what makes you unique and what makes you tick and how you present that to the world. And I think that is exactly what you think too, I imagine.
It is. I couldn't have said it better myself. I think people look at etiquette as a way to put you in a box, right? That it's a bunch of rules of what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to fit into this certain box, but so much of my work is helping you actually bust out of that box.
Right.
It's about, learning how to have the confidence to tell your story. I'm a firm believer in the fact that, when you go out in the world and shine your light in the way that you're supposed to, you give people the permission and the inspiration to do that as well. So it's actually like a domino effect. But I couldn't have said it better than you did, Trisha, as it's, helping you convey what those special gifts that you have to the world are in a way that does them justice.
Right. And yeah, for sure. And I think that confidence, so I work with mostly 18 to, 22-year-olds, and figuring out, like, you obviously knew at an early age that you were an old soul, but figuring out what it is at that age and then being able to present it in a way that resonates with others, and like you said, lets them want to shine their light too, it's all part of it. It's all connected for sure.
Yes. And I always tell people, others aren't mind readers. We only allow them to see what we let them see and what we tell them. And so it's up to us, as if we were brands or businesses to market ourselves in that way. And it doesn't have to be, in a bragging way. You can be humble and all of those things, but it's about telling your story and showing your unique attributes in your way.
So, do you agree with this? And I think this is a big part of my business. Do you believe that social media can be used to do that in an effective way because you have control over it? Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely. I think that, social media is such a beast in its own way, but I truly believe that in the digital world that we live in, your social media or your digital presence in general plays such a big part in your first impression, even before that you meet someone for the first time, because future employers or organizations or Greek life, whatever it is, they are on there. They're looking at
Mm-hmm.
your social media presence or your LinkedIn or wherever you are online. So it almost serves as the prequel, or if you will, to your first impression. So, even though you have control over it, you still want to make sure that, is this a good representation of all the great things that I have to offer as a person?
Yes, I agree completely. And that's what it's I think frustrating for people who don't understand sometimes. They're like, "Well, you're trying to change my daughter, or you're trying to change me by telling me to no, I don't tell people to do specific things, but I
Hmm.
do say, if you're into ballet, post pictures of you dancing, or so
Yes.
'cause people can get to see what things that you're interested in. Then it's going to make conversations easier. It's going to, because everyone is online. I mean, it's the
Hmm.
first thing you do, or first thing I do when I meet someone. I'm immediately going to look at their Instagram. I mean, not every time,
Right.
but if I want to
Right.
know more about them, and I feel like curating that in a thoughtful way that really shows you how to shine is really important.
And I look at it this way too, that, in a world where on paper everybody is so competitive and qualified with all of our, access to resources and education and organizations and things, it's, what are those things that are going to make you stand out and make you memorable among a group? And so much of that is the things that you love, because the things that you love are what are the easiest things to talk about and the easiest things to showcase. And so if you can really tap into that, whether it's a hobby or a value or a belief or whatever it is, it's, how is this setting me apart from a crowd?
I just laughed when you said that, because I'm not kidding. I say what you're saying every day. I'm like, because people will be like, wait, I have great grades, my resume, or moms will be like, my daughter has a great resume. She started a charity. She did all of the things that these people, young people, are doing. Again, if you've ever listened to this podcast out there, and thank you, you know that this was not me. I had a 2.6 from high school going to college, but the way to set yourself apart is not. I mean, these girls have it going on in their resumes,
I believe it.
so it's almost impossible to set yourself apart in that way, just because, like you said, all the resources and you know the hard work. So
Yes.
setting yourself apart online is by doing the way to set yourself, excuse me, apart online is to do just like you said, what makes you you. So
Right.
what are some common etiquette mistakes you see, especially among younger generations?
With younger generations, I would say that the easy answer is to say the technology use, right? Not knowing when to put the phone down and be present for conversation. That's the easy one that I could give. I would say, table manners and hosting and guest etiquette, those are all, what to me seem like are becoming a lost art. And then something that I see all ages struggle with, but especially the younger generation, and this ties perfectly into what we were speaking about, is being able to speak about yourself in conversation. When someone says, it's so nice to meet you, tell me about yourself, or what have you been working on lately, or what are you looking forward to? And it makes people freeze. So being able to speak about yourself humbly, that's probably not the first thing that you think of when you think of etiquette, right? You think of table manners or things like that, which is why I mentioned those before. But that's something I see that people across generations, across backgrounds, across industries struggle with.
Absolutely. And that's something we work on very much with our clients. Well, so how do you help them do that as an etiquette coach?
So I work with, people one on one if they have specific needs, recent graduates, people looking to change their career, people looking to refine their social and professional skills as a skill set, or I work on a larger scale by going into different businesses and groups and organizations to give workshops and things like that. And it's a really kind of curated, customized experience, because I think every industry and every need is so different. And I think there's etiquette for everything, right? There's people want to know the right thing to do in these situations. They want to know how to succeed socially, succeed with confidence. And so I always say I will always have a job because there's etiquette for every situation.
Yes, you will. And I don't know. I think I might be superfluous here, meaning I feel like you're saying everything that I say. That is just kind of,
I believe it.
It's so important, and it's so simpatico, or whatever the word is.
I believe it.
It's really, and your philosophy. I love that. And I love that you go deeper than, I think table manners are very important. But I mean, I'm one of those people, there's a word for it. When people chew and they smack, there's
Yes.
like it.
I know. I can't think of the word, but I know that it exists.
It's an actual thing that I have. A friend of mine
Yes.
is an occupational therapist, and she explained it as an auditory processing disorder, but there's a word for it. And I literally, like, it will make me start shaking if someone
I
is
believe it.
smacking their food, or if I can hear them chewing really loudly. It's awful. And
So now the listeners know to chew with their mouth closed, especially around Trisha.
yeah, exactly. I don't think I've ever told anybody that, but yes, I have this old dog. Speaking of dogs, and she was very, very old, and she was licking all the time, and it upset my kids because I would just be like, ah, and they would say, "Mom, just leave the room," and I would leave the room because they were like, "She's old, that's what she does," and I was like, I get it, but I can't hear it. So
No, you're having a real reaction to it.
yeah, a real reaction. Yes. So I went off on a tangent there, talking about my old dog.
That's okay.
So do you have like a success story? I'm sure you have a gazillion success stories, knowing you and knowing.
Thank you.
So she's talking about her speaking. The first time, I'm going to ask that question again in a minute.
Sure.
But the first time I met her, she was speaking to this group, and I was like, wow. I mean, just blown away. And she's an excellent speaker, and she's
Thank
very gets it across. And I think everybody around me was like, wow, like who knew that an etiquette? Because again, I'm sure people who don't know think it's much, like you said, putting rules around something when you're actually doing the opposite.
Right. Well, thank you. That was such a great experience to meet you at the Southern Sea and to speak there. And that's something I deal with every day is kind of working to redefine the idea and kind of blowing people's minds with what's possible when they kind of keep an open mind about etiquette. Because I definitely get an interesting like, why do I have an etiquette trainer here, especially in a business sense? Speaking to a room full of people who choose to be there versus a room full of people who were told to be there by their employer. It's an interesting difference.
And y'all, when I was there, I can't remember what it was, and I don't like to bring up negative things, nothing about her, of course, but someone was kind of giving me some hate online, and she gave me some great advice, and I really appreciated that when you did that, just because I think that the combination of someone not knowing plus being behind a keyboard can sometimes make it get ugly. And anyway, we don't need to go there. We don't need to go there, but she was very, very helpful. So, okay, back to success story of someone whose life was transformed by learning some etiquette.
I think that one thing that sticks out for me, and, I work with hundreds of people each year, and the best part of what I do by far is to hear how, our session or how a workshop that I hosted has impacted them in some way. And so, that's just a general statement, but I can think of one specific instance where there was a young woman who was making a career change, and she had been on, I think it was like north of 20 interviews.
Oh, wow.
And she was just getting declined from every single one. And so we worked together one time, and I was able to kind of spot the struggle that she was having right away. And so we worked on some interview skills, some conversation skills, some self-presentation skills, business etiquette, things like that. And she got a job offer the next interview that she had after we met. And that was one of the most rewarding moments in my career, to just hear from her with so much excitement and so much hope, and, for this new opportunity for her, and not even for the job interview. That was just the cherry on the cake, or the job offer. That was the cherry on the cake. But the confidence that she said that she had when she went into the job interview and how different that felt from the last group of them, that was like, that's all I could ask for, really.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I completely think that when you have confidence in yourself and getting that through having some real tangible skills like conversation and presenting yourself and being able to listen, back and forth, that gives you the confidence in any situation. And that's what we do for Rush as well. It's very much what we do. So can you tell me, I don't really know how to ask this either, but what are some conversation tips that you would give someone for a job interview or maybe conversation skills, maybe not tips, I don't know.
Sure. So I would say that it starts before you even get into the room with somebody. So doing the pre-work is important. And so as silly as this sounds, I always tell people, sit down with a piece of paper before you know you'll be speaking to someone and jot down 10 things that you want to come up in conversation. Because as I mentioned earlier, people aren't mind readers, and we share our special skills and our unique attributes through our storytelling. So even before I go to a networking event or a conference or any place where I know I'll be conversing with people, I write down 10 things of, a recent trip I went on, something that I'm working on, something that excited me, a question that I might want to ask them, just things that are relevant to my life right now, maybe a non-controversial current event going on in the community.
I like the non-controversial. Sorry, I didn't interrupt you, but yeah.
Had to put that in.
Yeah. Woo, okay, continue. Sorry.
Have discretion with that. But, listing these things so that they kind of move to the front of my brain so that when somebody does prompt me with something or asks me a question, those things that I wrote down an hour before I left are more likely to come up in my responses simply because I reminded myself of them. So I know that sounds simple, but that's the first thing that you do.
No, it does not. I literally, I don't know if you saw me, I pulled out my notepad and I'm scrambling writing as fast as I can, because that's a really good, I'm gonna credit you, but I'm gonna use that.
Of course. No, please use it. So that's the first thing. The pre-work is important. The second thing that I would recommend is to really pay attention to your nonverbal behavior. I think in conversation in general, we are so quick to fall into that stress or anxiety of, did I say the right things? Did I overshare? Did I ask the wrong questions? But if we think about the psychology of how we're perceived by people, there's a study that proves that over half of the way we're perceived by people is through our nonverbal behavior. And so with that knowledge, you can kind of think about how you want to allocate your energy when you're preparing for a conversation with someone. And oftentimes we're so focused on our words that we forget about how we communicate with our body, our energy, the outfit that we choose to wear, the presence we have when we walk into a room. So ensuring that your posture is good, your chin is level with the ground, you're entering the room with a calm energy, you're not coming in frantically from where you were before, that takes 10 seconds to just take a deep breath before you go in. All of those things that contribute to how you communicate non-verbally play a big part in that. So that's another important part. And then I would say, especially for somebody who maybe feels like more of an introvert or more shy or has trouble in conversation, I always tell people to come with topics that you're prepared to talk about. But when you ask questions, you should focus on framing them in a way that either that your response ends in another question for the person, or that you are able to, tell a story through your answers. So my point here is that your responses are as important as your questions, right? It's a two-way street. And so come with those questions or those topics that you want to talk about, but be prepared to answer in a way that's not, 2 words, 3 words. That will help it feel a little bit more like conversation instead of that awful ping pong like small talk that's question, answer, which, nobody actually enjoys. Even the most extroverted of people don't even enjoy.
No, I've said, and I've said it recently on this podcast, I'm very much an extrovert, but I can't stand small talk. Like that, just that little back and ping, ping, ping is not good. So those are great tips. And I've written them, scribbled them. I'm probably going to have to text you and be like, wait, what was that?
Please do, anytime.
And I'll still give you credit. Okay. Another connection is my children are at the age where they're getting married, and not my children getting married in droves, but their friends are getting married in droves. And I don't know if I said this in the beginning, but yes, I did. Mariah is an author as well of 2 books, and I have one here. What do I do? And every wedding etiquette question answered. And I think this is genius because
Thank you.
not especially for my age, but there's so many things in here that I did not know. And so for someone so can you talk to me about wedding gift etiquette?
Sure. As the giver, as the receiver.
As the giver, so we have, and it has nothing to do with the finances of it, but I sometimes don't know like how to figure out, does somebody want the plates, or does someone want like a unique thing, or just if any gifting tips as a giver.
So, the interesting thing about gift giving when it comes to weddings is that it actually differs geographically. And I
Oh
learned
yes,
this in a lot of my research. So, growing up in the Northeast and the way I grew up, it's very customary that for a shower, you purchase off the registry, and then for the wedding, you give a monetary gift. That's
right.
the way that we do it in the Northeast. But I understand that that's not the way that everybody does it all over. But I would say that if there is a registry, you know, it's a good idea to use the registry if they provide one, because you know that you're going to be gifting them something that they either want or need. And so my kind of saying is like, a gift is a gift. Anything that you can give, should be appreciated. But if you can shop on their registry, that's a great place to start. That way you really know you're getting them something that they really want.
Yeah, that's great advice. That, and it does. I used to be of this school, but then it was more about me. I used to be of the school that I wanted to give them something memorable that wasn't on their registry, just because
Right.
I wanted them to look at it and think of me. But then I was like, ding, 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 ding. Wait, that's about what I want. And so that I changed. So now I'm strictly registry girl.
I think it's a safe bet.
Are there any other like tips that are interesting and cool from your book that you would like to share?
I think that the kind of the broad message of the book is, first of all, there hasn't been a wedding etiquette book written in so many years. And so much has changed in the wedding industry since those books have been written, right? With interfaith marriages, same-sex marriages, wedding websites, asking for monetary gifts with Venmo and those ridiculous things, right? Like, there's so many different aspects to wedding planning now. And so the reason that I wrote the book was to kind of give people the why behind the etiquette. Like, why do we do the things that we do? But let's look at it from a modern lens, because I'm a firm believer in having the wedding that you want. Traditional, non-traditional, following things to a T, making something completely unique. So I think that I urge couples to read it as a way to understand, how can I give myself, but also my friends, my family, my guests, the best experience. And so there's even parts in the book about like how to talk to your family about money. Is it something that your parents offered? Is it not a conversation at all? How do you navigate those tricky situations? How do you give your family members jobs or things to help with when, you want to make them feel heard, but you really don't want their help in certain places, and, all those kind of tricky things, family dynamics, friendship things. How do you navigate all of those with grace? So what's that sweet spot between like having the wedding of your dreams and having that kind of weekend where you can be a selfish host in a way a little bit, but not without, remembering that it is a guest experience. You want your friends and family to have a wonderful time. You want to be thoughtful in the decisions that you make. And so I wrote the book as kind of a way to balance the two things, to find to say that they can coexist.
I think that's a great, that's a really cool philosophy. And it's meeting a need, because I'm seeing so much with etiquette and rush and all the things. It's changing so much from the digital, because everything's
Yes.
online. And how do you feel about Venmoing wedding money?
Well, I tell people just to not put that on your registry or
Right.
on your website anywhere. Like, here's where you can send me monetary gifts. I will say, if you want to do something like a honeymoon fund or an in lieu of gifts or something like that, it should be done through an intentional like website or a platform or a registry where it's not like, here's my bank account. There's a way to do it a little bit more tactfully. But that's a perfect example of like, we need to change with the times. This exists. This is something that, happens nowadays. And so that's why I actually wrote the second book, which is a wedding planner, because the first book is the why. And then everyone's like, okay, that's great. But now how do I plan these things that you told me to plan? So now the planner is the how. But, it's important for us to evolve with the times, right? If you opened a wedding etiquette book from the 90s or the 80s or the 50s even, there's nothing on there about what to put on a wedding website, or if that is it inappropriate to have digital RSVPs. Like, none of that existed.
Right. Yes, and that is so, and it is, especially like grandmothers, I imagine, are so confused. And
Yes.
I talk to a lot of grandmothers, and they're still like, well, I was a Kappa Kappa Gamma, and she needs to be a Kappa Kappa Gamma. And I'm like, wait, dude, like, they don't even have Kappa in her school.
Right.
But,
you got to change with the times.
Yeah, you got to change with the times. And I love that. And I am giving this wedding etiquette book and the planner to every single person that I know that is going to be involved in a wedding, because it really is. I love so much. I love so much about you, but I love so much that you know what's actually happening out there, but I'm so in this season of life. I recently got married, and all of my friends are getting married in the same 13 months. So after those weddings are over, and now that these two books are out, I don't want to ever talk about weddings again. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But I'm so very much in it that yes, it's all happening in real time. When did you get married?
November of 2024.
Oh, wow. So then now it's going to be time for you to start researching the baby. I'm not saying anything about you, but like the baby etiquette, because I'm sure that's changed a lot too. So
it definitely has. And just in general, I started out teaching children. I still do teach children. It's not, my primary focus anymore, but there's still such a need for, to start young, right? You only know what you know and how you were raised. And so I think there's, yes, about the baby showers and all of that too, but then also the emphasis on teaching children, how to teach children. I did a wonderful webinar with a parenting expert about, how to teach this topic in a fun way where it's not, like an eye rolling, like a rule, rigid kind of take on the subject. So it's important. We start them young so that they can lead by example for other people in their generation too.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it is so important. And when it's ingrained, then it comes much more naturally later.
Yes. I can, credit my success and a lot of my social confidence from the way my parents raised me and their gifts socially, and the way that they taught me how to be around people and how to present myself. I think some of it does come naturally for me, but a lot of it was how they taught me to show up in the world.
Right. And that's cool. And also, even if you don't have those skills, putting in the pre-work, like you said, and the preparation, that's another simpatico thing. You got to put in the work to achieve your goals and if you want to get a job. And I love the write down 10 things that are relevant to you right there. And I'm going to share that again, credit. I think it's just so important to be able to communicate what makes you in any kind of situation, like we said, and to do that in a way that's effective and helps you, like I said, reach your goals, whatever those are. Whether it's you want to go join Greek life, you want a job, you want to connect with other people, find friends, all of the things.
Exactly. And I look at it too as a muscle that you have to work, or something that you have to practice for, as if you would do anything. If you were trying to learn to play an instrument or play a sport or start a new hobby, you would work at it, you would practice, you would put the time into, grow in your skill set. And so any of these, what they, call soft skills or social skills or whatever you want to call it, the etiquette, the communication, the networking, it's another muscle that you have to exercise. It's another skill that you have to perfect. And, the practice and the preparation does make a difference, as it does with anything that you take on in life.
Yeah, that's that. I'd spend a lot of time explaining to people when they call me to, possibly become clients. Mm-hmm. Like, you wouldn't just show up at a baseball game and try to pitch without having a coach or practice. And both of those things are even better. Not everybody can can have a coach. So that's why you have books. And
Yes.
and so that's amazing. So I am so grateful you were here today. Tell people how they can find you and your books.
Oh, well, thank you. So my website is www.oldsoulettiquette.com. That's where you can find everything, information on me, my workshops, my on-demand learning, my books. And then Instagram is my primary place that I post online, and that's mariah.grumet.humbert. And then I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on TikTok, but everything can be found on my website. Thank you.
And it will also be in the show notes. But I think what you're doing is really, really, really important. And I'm so grateful that our listeners got to hear you today. And I'm so grateful that you were here.
Oh, likewise. Thank you, Trisha.
And hopefully I'll see you at the Southern Sea.
Yes, I can't wait.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so because I surround myself with rock stars and because I'm leaning into rush prep for these episodes, I'm not going to do Time Out with Trisha because that is rush prep. So anyway, the whole episode was rush prep. So thank you for listening. In the meantime, check out my Instagram at Rush with Confidence for more tips. See you next week. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Mad Rush Podcast. If you are enjoying this podcast, please consider leaving us a 5-star review. For additional Rush tips, updates, and more, please follow me on Instagram at Rush with Confidence. If you would like to reach out to us or for more information, please email info@madrushpod.com. This podcast is produced by Collier Landry and Don't Touch My Radio. Copyright Trisha Adams.